Welcome back to my vessel of light. Tonight we begin with an image that refused to behave, an empty picture that somehow felt crowded, a frame with no people and yet the weight of 100 footsteps. Maeve Ito found the photograph in a thrift store book, tucked between pages about coastal birds. The paper was smooth and slightly curled. The scene showed a park bench, a path, and nothing else. It was not a lonely nothing. It looked busy the way a stage looks busy before actors appear. Bench slats polished by use, a paper cup lid near the trash, footprints pressed into dust. Someone had written a tiny pencil note on the back. Taken near Harbor Walk. Keep. The word keep felt like a suggestion and also a warning. Maeve slipped the photo into her pocket anyway. She scanned it at home and noticed details her eyes missed. Indents in the grass where a blanket must have been, crumbs near the curb, confetti threads stuck to the bark. Everything except anyone who made them. She checked the metadata and found nothing elegant. No timestamp, no camera model, only a thin fingerprint of dust in the margin. She laughed softly and tried to forget it while making dinner. That evening, her phone buzzed with a map suggestion, a gentle nudge toward Harbor Walk, as if the city itself remembered the photograph. Maeve decided to visit at midday and practice curiosity without fear. Harbor Walk smelled like salt and paper and weekend plans. Gulls lifted opinions, bicycles murmured. The bench from the photo waited exactly where the path bent. Sunlight drew careful rectangles across the seat like invitations. Maeve held the photograph beside the actual bench and felt a strange alignment. The shadows in the picture matched the shadows on the ground. Yet the current bench was surrounded by people in quick conversations. She lifted her phone to capture a comparison. Later, she checked the image and felt her stomach tighten. Her picture showed the same empty bench, the same path, the same confetti threads, and again, no people anywhere. She took a second image while a runner passed and a child laughed nearby. The second file came back empty of faces. Only the proof of activity remained. Footprints, crumbs, shadows, motion implied but not present. Maeve sat and breathed slowly. 10 in, 10 out. The world around her continued at ordinary speed. Only the photographs refused attendance. A soft idea arrived. Maybe the camera could not see what hurried. She tested the thought by asking the stranger to stand still for 5 breaths. The stranger smiled and humored the experiment. Later, that photo contained a person perfectly, skin pores sharp, eyes amused, reality cooperative. Another test was someone walking by quickly returned a frame of absence. Only a swinging bag shadow and a shoe print remained, Maeve wrote in her notes. Stillness appears, hurry vanishes. The rule felt honest. A print shop technician named Kasia confirmed the files were intact. No corruption, no glitch she could diagnose. Kasia shrugged kindly and said some lenses translate attention, not light, then offered to sharpen the scan. Maeve printed the original thrifted photo large and brought it home. On the wall, it looked like a quiet theater. She placed a chair across from it and practiced being seen by sitting still. Her neighbor, Mr. Duarte, stopped by to return a package and paused at the print. He said it felt crowded without showing why. Then he laughed and said that is also how my days feel lately. At night, Maeve dreamed of the bench filling and emptying like a tide of choices. People arrived when they kept a promise to breathe. People disappeared when they sprinted for a story they did not want. The next morning, she returned to Harbor Walk with a notebook. She wrote 3 lines, Water before screens, light before conclusions, stillness before decisions. Then she sat and watched how the path negotiated with the afternoon. A cyclist slowed to adjust a strap and appeared in her photograph perfectly. A hurried couple arguing melted out of the frame entirely. Only the echo of their motion remained, footprints shaped like punctuation marks. Maeve texted her friend Rowan, a journalist who trusts data and kindness equally. Rowan arrived with a thermos and curiosity. They built a small list of tests and agreed not to chase explanations faster than breath. They marked a spot and counted 4 counts to arrive, 6 to release. The camera saw anyone who honored the counts and erased anyone who fought them. The results repeated until the rule felt durable. Rowan asked what it meant for their lives. Maeve said maybe we are only visible to ourselves when we move at a speed we can actually inhabit. Rowan nodded and wrote that sentence down carefully. Over the next week, Maeve photographed different places: a crosswalk, a grocery line, a library staircase. The pattern held. Presence left a record. Rushing left crumbs. Doors reflected faces when people paused and vanished when they performed. At the library, she met an archivist named Lila who studied old city images. Lila showed a photograph from the 1950s where a parade looked oddly thin. She said the photographer called it impatience exposure. Impatience exposure sounded like an accidental truth and a useful phrase. Maeve thanked her and promised to return with more examples. Lila lent her a folder labeled frames that waited and told her to handle gently. Maeve taped the original thrifted photograph above her desk. She used it like a compass. Whenever her day felt crowded with nothing visible, she asked which part of me is trying too fast to exist. A small ceremony formed around the camera. She tied a blue ribbon to the strap and whispered the rules silently. Show whoever keeps breath, respect whoever needs time, refuse to punish either. Then she took pictures kindly. One afternoon, a teacher led students along Harbor Walk and asked permission to stand still for 10 seconds. They practiced presence together and clapped without noise. Later, Maeve delivered prints where each child appeared radiant and real. This strange photo began to teach the neighborhood. The coffee shop placed a tiny sign near the register. Pause for one breath, and your order will taste better. Laughter followed, and so did slower sips. Maeve visited her Aunt Sumi, who kept stories like buttons in a tin. Sumi studied the image and said your grandfather took one like this during a heat wave. He swore photographs refuse panic and prefer patience. Maeve asked for that old picture and Sumi produced a small envelope. Inside lay a faded frame of a street with empty sidewalks and sparkling window reflections. The air looked crowded without a single person visible. They placed the 2 photos side by side and watched decades agree. Sumi brewed tea and said we often vanish from our own lives. When our hurry gets louder than our name, please remember to slow. A minor storm arrived and cleaned the air. Maeve walked to the bench and found confetti threads washed into a neat circle near the drain. The circle looked like a quiet invitation to stand inside. She stood in the circle and took a photograph of her shoes and nothing else. Later, the file revealed more than shoes. It revealed steadier posture. Shoulders lower, knees soft, details of a person choosing to remain. Rowan organized a small exhibit at a community center called Missing on Purpose. The walls held empty-looking frames that felt surprisingly social. Visitors wrote notes about where they disappear and where they return to themselves. A security guard named Theo said the images felt like a helpful mirror. He said sometimes my best work is invisible because it prevents problems. These frames finally show the kind of presence nobody praises, but everyone needs. Maeve created a series of gentle experiments for herself. Take one slow photograph before answering big emails. Take one before agreeing to a favor. Take one before leaving a room angry. The camera rewarded every slower choice. Not every day cooperated. Some days felt like a parade of vanishing. Those days taught humility instead of performance. Maeve began to value consistent attention over perfect clarity. The camera agreed by delivering truer frames slowly. One morning, a new photograph arrived in the mail with no return address. The print showed an empty bus stop and a leaning bicycle. On the back, someone had written "Continue." The handwriting looked like a relative of Keep. She taped "Continue" below Keep and smiled. She walked to the bus stop and waited through one bus without boarding. The second bus arrived with a quieter driver and 2 empty seats. She took one gratefully. In the evening, she met a local photographer named Anders who processed film slowly in a basement that smelled like lemons and work. He examined the strange frames and said, "These are honest, not haunted. Keep shooting." Anders suggested printing at larger sizes to reveal what patience writes in corners. The big prints revealed things she had not noticed. A thread dangling from a cuff, the reflection of a listening face in a window. Maeve wrote 3 lines for her wall. Arrive fully or not at all. Say yes, only where you can breathe. Let your camera remind your body what your calendar forgets. The home agreed by feeling roomier. A small article about the project appeared in a neighborhood paper. Comments arrived from people who recognized themselves in absence. A nurse wrote that she disappears during double shifts and reappears when a patient laughs gently. Maeve replied with gratitude and sent a print to the nurse. The package included a note: stand still beside a window for 1 song each day. Teach the room your outline again. Attention will remember you. One afternoon, she returned to Harbor Walk and found the bench newly painted. The color looked like early morning. A maintenance worker said we painted it slower than usual because everyone kept stopping to breathe. It dried beautifully. Maeve took a final photograph at the exact angle of the original thrifted one. This time the bench did not empty itself. 2 elders sat shoulder to shoulder, a dog napped, a teenager drew loops in dust. The frame looked crowded and also peaceful, nothing performed, everything belonged. Maeve realized the project was never about empty photographs. It was about a different kind of full that shows up only when someone refuses to hurry. She printed that last image and placed it beside the first. Keep and Continue shared the wall like bookends. Between them hung weeks of learning to become visible to oneself at a human speed. Back at home, she recorded a simple message for tomorrow. Begin smaller, finish kinder, water before screens, light before conclusions, stillness before decisions. Then she turned the phone face down and let evening arrive without audition. If your day feels crowded by absence, consider that you may be moving too quickly for your own eyes to focus. Try standing still for 10 breaths near a window, then re-enter at your true pace. Thank you for being here with my vessel of light. If this story kept you company, like the video so the candle travels farther. Subscribe to my vessel of light and share one place you will practice being seen this week.